Tonight, Bob Flanagan, poet, performance artist with cystic fibrosis, whose art reflected a masochist's painful but empowered relationship to his own body. We do Kirby Dick's 1997 Sick, The Life and Death of Bob Flanagan, SuperMasochist. It's a documentary. Rick, you're the one who told me about it. What say you?
Let me give you the history of this movie for me. I was gigging. I was in LA. I think it was 2002, 2003, somewhere around there, and I was gigging in West Covina. And was it? When did this movie come out? Do you know?
97.
No, did it? Wow. Okay, so 97, yeah. Okay, so I was gigging in West Covina, and there was a Tower Records out there at the mall, and Tower Records was like a light, and I was a moth, and I was just drawn to it. Anytime there was a Tower Records near me, boom, I made the time to stop off. And I stopped off at this one, and I'm going through the DVDs. I'm going through just whatever they have, documentaries and everything. And I see this baby blue cover with a man with, it looks like a giant Band-Aid covering his cock. Pierced nipples, a surgical mask, a cape that looks like it was made out of a hospital gown. I think he had boots on, and an oxygen tank. It said Sick, The Life and Times of Bob Flanagan, SuperMasochist. And I looked at this cover and I thought, what the fuck is this? And I bought it, and I brought it home. And I don't know why I didn't watch it. And there have been times in the 20 years since, in the 20 plus years since, that I've gone to my shelf and I've pulled it off the shelf and say, I'm going to watch Sick today. And I never do it. There was something about it that just, it frightened me. I think I read something about it, and there was something about the masochism and a moment that we're going to talk about later, but that I wasn't prepared to see. I wasn't, there was a couple things in this movie that I wasn't prepared to see. And I saw clips of it, and I saw one clip where he had tucked his dick between his balls and had sutured his cock into his balls.
Yeah, he made like a cocoon.
Yeah. And I said, I can't watch this. I just can't watch this. I don't know. I never thought to myself, why did I buy this? I knew why I bought it. I absolutely knew why I bought it.
Why?
Because it was fascinating. Because there was something about it. When I read, you see that, and you see the oxygen tank and the nose thing. You know that there's something. There's a story here, and I don't know what the fuck the story is, but I want to know the story. And it's the movie that I never watched, but I researched, and I read up on him, and I would read articles about him, and I might have read the book at one point that they wrote with this, and I was fascinated, but I couldn't bring myself to watch it. I was too afraid. There was something in it that scared the shit out of me about it. And when we started talking Dogs Don't Wear Pants, and you suggested the movie that you suggested, I thought, well, wait a minute. If we're going to start talking about BDSM, it's time to watch Sick. And having done that now, I gotta say I've seen one of the best documentaries I think I've ever seen. Powerful, more than just exploitation. Because let's be honest about something. With the images that you're going to see in this film, if you watch this film, are going to be incredibly disturbing and are the type that most people would be afraid to watch, to look at, and would be dismissive of as a type of pornography or violence or dangerous imagery that would corrupt.
Mm-hmm.
And what I saw yesterday, after 20-some years of waiting and avoiding, was one of the most powerful expressions of self-realization and struggle and purpose that I've ever seen. And I look at Bob Flanagan and I think to myself, my God, this was an incredible human being. I can't say that enough. I can't speak enough. Well, we're going to find out in the next hour or so just exactly how important this movie watching experience was. And I think, having just recorded our episode about the fetish documentary by Nick Bromfield, this fills in a lot of the questions that I had. Not all of them.
Yeah. Right.
Because this is extreme. This is a complete outlier. This is not normal. This is a man suffering from cystic fibrosis who should have died when he was a child, or at the very least in his early 20s, who was slowly being suffocated as if drowning in his own fluids, in his own
mucus
his own mucus and phlegm that's in his lungs. And at one point they show a casing of some sort that has all of the fluid that was in his lung at one point, and it's frightening.
His widow.
Yeah, his widow. And as disturbing as the film was, and as often as I turned away from it, and I had to pause, and I had to stop, and I had to go outside and walk around a little bit and play with the dog, and I had to go back to it. I felt, what the truth was, I was like, you fucking pussy, get your ass back in there and finish this. This guy suffered way more than you ever will. Finish his fucking movie. And I gotta say, by the end of the movie, I was teared up because it's his journey. And spoiler alert, Bob don't make it.
Yeah.
And by that point, and by that point, I'm teared up because I really cared about this man. I really felt like he pushed it to the limit, and he did not give a shit to let the disease, I don't know how to describe it. I just thought it was one of the most powerful things that I've ever seen, and it made me believe in something. I don't know what I believe, but I know I believe in something now. Maybe the strength of the individual, the perseverance of man, the love between two people, the struggle to regain your to regain control over your body and your soul. Bob Flanagan is a fucking hero. more people should know about him. And as disturbing as this film is, more people should see it. While at the same time, I can't recommend it to anybody.
Those are the best ones.
Yeah.
Those are the best ones. It's who are the few people that you would be willing to say, hey, you know, because I didn't know about this movie. You recommended it to me.
Did you know who he was? Had you heard of him?
I didn't know him by name until I watched the documentary,
Okay.
and then I was like, oh shit, he's the guy in the Nine Inch Nails video.
I figured you would have seen that. Yeah.
Happiness in Slavery, yeah. And I was like, oh shit, okay.
Did you realize that before they showed the clip in the movie?
No, I don't think I had put it together. I don't think once they showed the clip of the video, and I was like, okay, like, then it was kind of connected.
Mm-hmm.
I just knew that you told me about this documentary called Sick.
Yeah.
But it's someone with cystic fibrosis.
I don't think I even told you that. I don't think I told you anything about it. I didn't tell you cystic fibrosis. I didn't tell you anything except that it was BDSM, right?
Okay, good. Perhaps I at this point, yeah, maybe it was just it's called Sick, and then BDSM. Okay, and then I guess I looked it up, and then it's cystic fibrosis. Okay, Sick.
Yeah.
Down words. Sick. Physical condition, medical condition. Sick. Societal tag, right?
Yeah.
A judgment. This guy's sick. So then it's like, okay, watch the film. So I'm watching the film, and he's definitely sick in terms of like oxygen tank, struggling, phlegm, constantly spitting up, coughing, sickly looking. He's married, but then you get into his art, you get into his writing, you get into his performance, and then it's like, okay, well, this sick person is fucking inspiring as hell. This sick person is basically doing alchemy, turning his sickness into an expression of his individuality. He's taking on a different relationship with his body now because he is under attack in terms of his medical condition. But now it's like, well, his dad comes out in the film and he's like, I always thought it was Bob's way of fighting back and saying, like, to whoever, to God or whoever did this, is like, well, fuck, you think you can do this shit to me? Well, look what I can fucking do.
Yeah.
And he's like, I never, like, agreed with it, or I never, like, understood it, but he understood that.
I love that moment in the film. I love that.
Yeah. And there's also something, like, I guess in terms of, there's something about us as humans that while we oftentimes, like, when we're young, we crave the approval of our parents or whatever, and then we individuate and we, like, separate, and then it's kind of like, hopefully we get to the point where it's like, you know what, a lot of my parents' judgments are kind of just based on their own bullshit, their own programming, their own beliefs, and it's just kind of like, yeah, I don't need their approval, and kind of mixed with, hopefully you get to the point where if they weren't fucked up, you get to the point where it's like, you know what, like, they were fucked up, and they weren't fucked up, but they were just kind of normal fucked up, whatever, the average fucked up person, and just kind of like, they did what they could with what the conditions that they had, and blah, blah, blah. But there's something that you see that part where you're just kind of like, damn, like, that's cool that while not understanding his son, he was able to appreciate that and see that versus just be like, my son fucking embarrassed me, my son fucking humiliated me by being a pervert or a freak. kind of like in the previous episode of fetishes, you were like, you called these people fucking freaks, and not in a like,
and a lot
hell
worse.
yeah, it's a fucking freak, you know, like
No.
In a judgmental kind of like, yeah, what the fuck, like that. But interestingly, this person is like a hero to you.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, before we even go on, like, what's the, I mean, I understand why he's a hero to you, but why would, in this case, this person be a hero to you versus just some guy who wants to dress up like a furry and get fucked in the ass? Why is that guy a freak? But Bob Flanagan, who likes to hang upside down and be beaten with chains, why is he not a freak? Or he is a freak, but why is he also a freak?
Don't be mistaken, Bob Flanagan's a freak too.
Yeah.
But it's there's a power dynamic there with Bob Flanagan beating his own body in a way that supplants whatever nature is doing to him, whatever the disease that has taken control over his life over 40 years and has controlled him and has, made it so that he can't live without this oxygen tube as he struggles to find purpose for himself. I find that inspiring. I find that watching this film afterwards, I did feel like, Jesus Christ, none of us have a fucking excuse. We do, but none of the excuses are valid, because here is somebody who is literally dying. You're watching him die for 90 minutes, and he's living more in that 90 minutes than the majority of us will do in our entire lives, because we don't have that immediate fear that he has, or the fears that we have are so overpowering and in control of us. Maybe if Bob Flanagan had been a healthy man, he would not have been the artistic inspiration that he was, but he fought, and he didn't just lay down, and he could have been any other story with cystic fibrosis, and he instead chose to put it out there and let people know, and not in a way of making things better for other people, but because it was his pain. He was exercising those demons each and every day, and knowing that he wasn't going to win, that he wasn't going to come out the other end of this thing healthy. He was going to die, and he was going to die at a young age, regardless of the fact that he outlived most people with cystic fibrosis by almost 20 years. The violence and the self-inflicted violence and the pain doesn't, the fact that he has cystic fibrosis and he's going through, his body is creating its own pain, and him supplanting that with pain that he's either administering to himself or having administered to him, that doesn't negate the freak part.
Right.
But it tells me that there is a fight there, and that it is a fuck you to the disease. And I believe in that. I believe in that kind of struggle. I believe in that sense of self-actualization, where you need to find your own purpose and make your voice heard. And Bob Flanagan does that. And as I was watching this movie, Kirby Dick, I don't know, by nature of a stylistic approach to the narrative or documenting it as it was occurring to Bob Flanagan, but you see him sick, but functional. And slowly he becomes wheelchair bound, bed bound, basically oxygenated, until he's just a body in a bed. But throughout, you feel like this fucking guy never gave up. And I'm not too often inspired by things that I see in movies. I don't, I write a lot of that shit off because I guess I want to be this tough guy or something. I don't want things to affect me in that way. But watching this really hit a note. And, it also hit a note because it's like, I should have watched this at 28 or 29 when I first got it. Compared to watching it now at 52, it's been sitting there. It's like it's a diamond that's been sitting on my shelf for 20 years that I didn't realize was there. I did not realize that I was going to be affected this heavily by this film. I wanted to call you right afterwards and talk to you about it right then and there, but I knew I couldn't do that.
I was tied up.
Well, waka waka, right?
Yeah.
He has a sense of humor about it. He has a realistic approach to it. Yeah. And I found it to be beautiful in that sense, where it's like, fuck you. If you want to take me, you're going to take me with a fight. And, I don't know, maybe some people would be like, well, what else was he going to do? But I can't imagine just getting up every day and trying to go through the normal functions of life would be hard enough with cystic fibrosis. But to be the masochist that he becomes in this movie, or at least the masochist that we discover as we're watching this movie, is really overpowering, because we're seeing somebody. It's not just piercings and whippings. This is a man who has what looked like a softball shoved up his ass at one point.
Oh yeah,
that was fucked up.
We meet his wife.
Yeah, with his wife.
Mm-hmm. Cherie. And he's tied up, face down, and she's like doing all these things to him or whatever, because she's his dom.
Yeah.
And we find out that 15 years earlier, he had basically given himself to her as her sub.
Yeah.
And so she's like doing things, and then she gets this fucking I would think more of a tennis ball. I don't know whatever, right? Depending on what's more impressive, whatever. But it's this fucking metal ball that she's like, oh, let's see if he can take it.
God,
and she's very she's very at once matter of fact, but also there's she's tough with him, but she's also there's a tenderness there.
Yeah.
She manages to cover all those colors, and then she he's fucking oh, and then she gets it in, and she's like, success. And you're just watching this thing, and you're just going this is fucking insanely fascinating.
Yeah.
And it's also insanely humorous. So he's a guy with cystic fibrosis. In the late 70s in LA, he was a poet and an artist. He was with Beyond Baroque, out of Venice. I think he's in the Modern Primitives book, which has extreme piercings and shit like that. He's in the Happiness is in Slavery band music video from Nine Inch Nails, where basically he's strapped to a chair or something like that, and a machine does all like impales him and does all this crazy shit to his body,
which was actually real. They were doing that. I mean, that wasn't simulated. Those were all real actions that were being performed on him during the making of that video.
There are needles like going into his hands and shit like that. Like,
Yeah.
It's crazy. And he's a camp counselor at a cystic fibrosis summer camp, and he's like playing guitar. And he's joking around. He's talking about like he's like, there's a girl called Ivy. He's like singing. He's like, not because her name was Ivy, but because she's on Ivy. And he's joking about, she's a pharmaceutical, and he's just joking like that. And then he goes into this Bob Dylan cover, but it's called Forever Long.
Yeah.
Instead of Forever Young, it's Forever Long. And he's just making people laugh with the gallows black humor, right? But there are also moments where there's this girl.
Oh God, yeah.
Named Sarah. She has cystic fibrosis. She's a 17-year-old girl with cystic fibrosis. Because we're just following. The premise of the film is just we're following this guy and learning about him in his journey. And so the Make-A-Wish Foundation connects this 17-year-old, I think she's Canadian, with cystic fibrosis she connects him with Bob Flanagan and his wife. So she shows up with the mom, and you just see her, and the first thing you see her fucking like look that Bob Flanagan is showing her is a fucking casket. And I just started laughing because it's fucking funny.
Yeah.
And then the next thing is this big black fucking like arm long fucking dildo. And the mom and the 17-year-old girl are just like looking at it or whatever. And then they're interviewing the mom and the girl, and then the way they cut it was funny because the mom's like, yeah, but it wasn't just like the S&M kind of stuff that like attracted her to it or whatever. And then the girl herself is like, yeah, but the S&M stuff like did attract to him,
yeah.
right? And she's saying he's an inspiration, he's this and that. And it's like, okay, so then they leave. And then there's this conversation between Bob Flanagan and his wife. And then his wife is like, you think she kind of like has like fantasies about you or, about like whatever. And he's just kind of like, no, I think it's just like, let's not go there with that. It's just like, it's the cystic fibrosis thing. And I think like, like she wanted to meet someone who's, doing this take on it or whatever. And she's like, the wife's like, yeah, but I think she does have like some fantasies. She's like, is that something you think that you would like, want to like play out with her? Like, what do you think? He's like, nah, like it's not. She's like, yeah, I think maybe you should. Like, like I think it is her fantasy, and if she's having these fantasies, maybe she's like almost like pressuring him,
Yeah.
And she's like a little bondage, a little spanking, and he's just kind of like, okay, but then he goes full fucking dirty old man, like in a second, and he starts saying all this shit. So then they cut to fucking, I don't know if it's a direct, like, back-to-back, but later in the film, at some point...
It's later.
In my head, it's fucking right, like, the lights turn on and off and she's there.
Mm-hmm.
She's fucking 18 years old, and she's back. And so they take her to a piercing place, and she gets her nipples pierced, and, like, here's this like sweet innocent girl and I'm not saying she's not innocent, she has her nipples pierced, but just the way it's framed, it was funny because it's like the idea of the performance art that is also not exploitative, but almost like self-exploitative, because it's kind of like just letting it hang out. So here's this, the way she was presented as a very innocent, kind of like naive, and that's also, she's presented as, okay, this young girl with cystic fibrosis, right?
Yeah.
But here you have now this chick, 18, is like, pierce my nipples, her fucking tits are out. She's all like, okay, cool, like all inspired by, or corrupted, however you want to judge or whatever, but also empowered. She's fucking like full on like, yeah, I have cystic fibrosis, but I want to get fucking pierced now, and I'm not gonna fucking have my cock pierced by some crazy hook, but because Bob Flanagan has a crazy piercing, and he hangs weights and stuff from his scrotum.
Yeah.
So she just gets, but that shit fucking hurts. And I looked her up because I was like, what, like, because in the film she talks about, she's like, I know I'm not going to live to be 24 or 25.
Yeah.
That's just a fact. She's like, but like he helps me like face that. And she actually, the film is from 97. She died in 2016, I believe.
Wow. Good for her.
So she lived to be, she was like 39.
Mm-hmm.
She was like right about to be 40. So she lived way longer than anticipated.
Mm-hmm.
And like, yeah, good for fucking her. Like she took that inspiration and how empowering to be like, to see her like that topless getting pierced is like not, don't look at me as just this person with a disease. You know what I mean?
Yeah, don't pity me.
Yeah, this is something that I want done to my body that involves pain, but it also involves beauty. And then the piercer is like, well, you're 18, right? and then the wife is like, oh, of course we wouldn't, like, blah, blah, blah. But the wife's fucked up too. Like in fucked up meaning like she's just like, there's a point where they're having this conversation because he's getting more and more sick throughout the filming of the documentary. He starts becoming less able to perform these acts and less interested in performing them because at this point he's just dealing with, and he's also getting crankier because he's suffering. And so there are a lot of like interactions where he doesn't want to play along. And she's stoned, and he's like, I don't like the way you always get like this when you're stoned. And they're having this deep fucking relationship talk about like, do they stay together type of shit. Like, this is a married couple, and this is like adult shit, right? And then she comes out with fucking, he says, I find it really hurtful that he's dying and all this shit, and then I find it hurtful that you're this way, and then you blah blah, and then she's like, well, I find it very hurtful that you won't submit to me. And there's something about it that is so fucked up and so like lacking in empathy, but it was also kind of like, yeah, but she's speaking of her part of their relationship as a person in the relationship, and it just made me laugh because it was not only was just fucked up, it was just kind of like Jesus fuck, right? But it's also like there was a truth to it because it's kind of like, yeah, but there's what he's going through, but she's also going through what he's going through as a person who's connected to him as his wife. And it may not be, as bad as what he's going through because it's happening to him, but she's dealing with her shit as his wife, watching him deal with his shit. And there's still all of those things where they each have their needs. And then, but the way it's framed through their dynamic is that like the language is the language of S&M. And he's like, I'm fucking dying. I'm fucking in pain. So then she's like, in the interview, like, she's like, yeah, I don't even know if he's a masochist anymore. She's like, because he's just dealing with so much shit. Like, just like, so it's this weird kind of like, almost disappointed, but at the same time realizing that means he's in this next chapter. That means he's closer to death. Yeah. That means he's like, you know what I mean? Like, and it's like, that means if he's not a masochist, then I'm moving out of the area of mistress, and I'm moving closer towards widow.
But there's also a factor of helplessness there, because
Yes,
they have a certain
yes,
relationship where she provides something, and she knows that whatever pain she's giving him, it's helping him control the pain that his body is going through, that his body is creating for itself. So when she can no longer do that because he's so consumed by his physical pain,
yes,
there's a loss of purpose there. And I think there's not just a loss of purpose, but a feeling of helplessness on her part in being
yes,
able to help him get to where he needs to be. She was a thing that grounded him and made him feel good. And she can't, and she comes off as a bitch, but at the same time, it's more like she's
and it's fun.
she's powerless, you know?
Yeah, yeah, and also like helped him get his focus off of
Mm-hmm.
himself in that way.
Yeah.
And this was not someone who, like you said, it wasn't just light spanking or a little bit of like good boy or whatever, like a little bit of verbal.
No, it wasn't choking.
No.
It was, this
This
was
was
intense.
he has a written piece. He has a poem that says, "With all my heart and soul, all I ever wanted was to be strung up, spanked, splayed, saddled, stuck, strangled, split open, spread eagled, shit on, spat at, sewn up, shoved, shackled, shaved, shocked, sucked, sapped, soaked, screwed, stripped, scratched, suffocated, sacrificed, straitjacketed, squelched, stifled, scorched, straddled, stoned, smothered, smashed, screamed at, shouted at, snapped in two, sawed in half, stamped on, sat on, sodomized, stuffed, starved, strapped, stretched, submerged, surrounded, slugged, socked, scarred, skewered, slaughtered, stung, struck, slapped, slammed, sutured, swept up, saturated, savaged, seduced, stroked, and spent." That's some hardcore shit. And not only do I like the writing, you see some of his pieces, you see some of his acts, and there's a scene. I want to talk about that. This is the central. This is the boundary pusher, because you see him do different shit. You see him hanging upside down. You see him. We already talked about that metal ball, which is already like whoa. But he talks about having done this act before, because you see him either engaging in these cystic fibrosis like camps, like where he's like singing, playing guitar, like doing that, and it's very humorous, or he's at these S&M conventions or whatever, where it's just like he's on stage doing a reading.
The readings, yeah.
But sometimes he looks like he's in front of this like wooden booth doing a reading, and it's fascinating. And not only I want to see the audience, because you can hear them laughing, and the way he's this bridge between these two different worlds. So at one point, you see him in video. It's a piece that he records. You see his dick, and he lays it pointed right at the camera, and he lays it like on a piece of wood or a 2x4, whatever it is, whatever kind of wood it is, and he gets a fucking nail, and he fucking hammers it. He nails it into the fucking wood.
Yeah.
And I used to watch, when I was a teenager, I used to watch Faces of Death, shit like that, fucked up shit like that. I would, then it was like, okay, like internet came out, and then we would watch, my friends and I would watch, there used to be, and I'll talk about this later when we get more into those types of, films, but there used to be a website called rotten.com.
Mm-hmm.
And it had like all kinds of gruesome like death stuff, and then it also had like a different link or whatever, that it was Celebrity Morgue, and it was like dead celebrities. It was all these fucked up imagery, autopsy, all this crazy shit. And then we saw it was like there was a whole thing about I don't know if you remember when this came out, that Two Girls One Cup. You remember that?
Yeah, I remember. I never saw it, but I remember it. Yeah.
And then there was one with it was a hammer, and it's like someone like getting attacked or something like that. And then there was one. It was one man, one jar. Did you ever see that one?
That's the one with the jar up the ass.
Yeah.
No, I never saw this shit. I never saw this shit. On our next episode, we're going to talk a little bit about that. But no, whenever something said not safe for work, I was like, you know what? I don't want to see this shit. I had no fascination with that. There was nothing about it that it was, you know, it's weird because you see it in this film and it's important to the film. And I didn't look away. I looked, I watched. Yeah. But there was context. And
well, let's because you see, we might as well talk about it, and then we'll go back to what we'll frame it.
Mm-hmm.
In this, you end up seeing his dead body. You see his corpse. So you
wait a minute!
him.
No, go back to the dick. You haven't finished with that.
I was gonna frame it. Yeah, because you brought it up, so I was like, okay, well, let's frame it. And we'll go through from dick to body back to life.
Back to dick. Okay.
The reason is because might as well do that contrast, and so okay, so the I watched the jar one, and that is where the jar collapses up his ass, and he has to pull the shards out of his ass, and his blood, and you're like, whoa, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so then we see this thing here, but later in the film, I'll come back to it, like I said, so we frame it. So then later in the film, you see him at these different, you see all these activities that he does, and then you see all his performances, we'll say, right?
Yeah.
And there's a distinction between the shit that he does, like just shit that he does with his wife, but there's also like they let us in performance, and mostly in conversation for the documentary. So at one point he finally says, I have to go back to the hospital. And I think he knows, like, it's happening. And so at one point you're like, fuck, he's gonna die. Like, this is like, and then he has this moment where he kind of bounces back, but he's super confused, and he's like, why do I keep feeling like I'm dying? And like, why does this happen? And blah, blah, blah. And his wife is like struggling too. And then finally, like, the next version is he's basically like comatose. And then we see him and he's dead. I read that part of the deal was, if you're gonna do this, like, you have to include me dead in this project. And so you see photographs that she takes of his body, and some of them look like posed, and like full frontal of his penis. You see his corpse, and the reason I brought these, because you said that you didn't look away at that, because it had purpose. Yeah, it's just this guy was all about being real and being with his body. And this is the reality, not only of him, this is all of us. And someone could say, well, that's so fucking like undignified that they would do that to him and show him like that. But I actually think it's the opposite. I think I think that he was an artist, and I think that it's part of he himself. His body was his artwork also. His body was his medium, and that's part of his journey. He even wanted to do a piece where there would be a camera in the tomb, and he said it in a joking way, but I'm sure he fucking would have been like, he was sure interested on some level, because he was even starting to do research like with vegetables like that, where someone would be able to see his body in various forms of decay and decomposition. So his wife shoots these images of him, and you see that, and then we see, his body being taken away. But going back to now, that's like, okay, you're seeing something there's the stillness of death. And that's the aftermath of all of his journey and his struggle and all that. But go back to when he's still in his fucking power, right? Whatever that means. He puts his fucking dick on a fucking wooden slab. He gets a nail and he hammers it. And he nails his fucking dick to a piece of wood. And I fucking paused it.
You didn't make it through that?
Well, I mean, I made it through it.
No, the first time. You didn't make it all the way.
No, I paused it and I fucking got up and I like went and had a drink of water and I fucking like, and do you ever have that where if you're talking about something fucked up's happening to someone and you get like this feeling in your legs? Have you ever had that?
Yeah.
Where it like goes up and down in the back of your leg?
Mm-hmm. You got that.
It was like that, and I was like, God damn. Because no matter how fucking artsy or how fucking open or how alternative or however, whatever the fuck, like, I'm gonna say that I am or want to be or whatever the fuck, it's there's still a part of me that's going, that's your fucking dick, dude. That's your fucking dick.
Yeah.
And so, but then I rewound it and I watched it again, and I'm like, God damn. And then he fucking takes it out. He takes the nail out, and then he like adjusts the camera. He's like squats over it or whatever, and then all this fucking blood is on the lens.
Yeah.
Like,
watching it pour out of his cock, it's really disturbing.
Yeah.
Really disturbing.
And I'm just kind of like, what, like the psychology of that. But you also have to like be careful that you don't, you're like, how do you go through that process? Because earlier in the piece, he's talking about having done it before.
Mm-hmm. And he has a cock ring. He has not a cock ring, but he has a piercing in his cock.
Yeah.
So I mean, this guy is not. This was not. This guy was not afraid of the self-immolation or whatever. I just. Part of me wonders how much pain he was in because of the cystic fibrosis, that you could do something like this to upend it. I don't even understand the psychology of it, to upend it or to take your mind away from the lungs, or I don't understand, except that he has power over the pain that he's inflicting on himself, or that he's asking Sherry to inflict on him.
Yeah, because he's also like rechanneling it, and he's turning it into art. He's fucking turning it into and then there's there's Catholic shit wrapped in that. There's
Oh yeah,
the mortification of the body. There's a mystical element to that where Saint Teresa of Avila would talk about, like, it was both painful and violent, but also sexual, or this idea of like God's love, like plunging into her side, like impaling her. The way that, like, or the mystics will talk about that kind of piercing love, the way that the spear pierced the side of Christ, or he's fucking dying in agony and crucifixion, and there's just all these deep meanings and all this different shit going on, like, in it, that it's fascinating in that it's not just, and we talked about this last time, it's not as simple as like, oh, I like pain, or I'm fucked up, or there's so many layers to it. And it is that person who's saying, well, yeah, I'm sick, but I'm like, well, what's sick? When I say I'm sick, I mean this. What do you mean when you hear me say I'm sick? Because I know you think this, but you also have to think that. You may judge me based on what I do to my body and what I do with my relationships, but you feel sorry for me because I have an illness. When I tell you I have this illness, do you think of me in a way that is good or positive? But if I didn't tell you about that, and I just told you that I have a fucking cock ring, and that like my wife does all these things to me, or I do all these things to myself, then you have a negative view of me. Well, how about both? Now what do you think of it? And it challenges all of these views. Nietzsche said that, because Nietzsche talks about, this is not related to the documentary, but he reminds me of, Nietzsche talks about there is an aesthetic component to morality. He says because the person who kills a cockroach is a hero, but the person who kills a butterfly is a villain. And it reminds me of that because Flanagan, if we look at him as a victim of the disease, then it's kind of like he seems to become holier. When we think of people like that, it's kind of like, oh, this person is like, oh shit, okay. But take that away, and then it's like, okay, metal ball up the ass, or whatever it is, you're going like, ugh, right?
Yeah.
Well, now what? It's the same thing with that girl Sarah. We don't know anything about her other than Make-A-Wish Foundation, and then you go like, oh, like that means what that means. But if I would just say, oh, there's some chick who shows her tits in a documentary and she's getting tits pierced or whatever, some people are gonna be like, fucking slut. Like, that's all I needed to know about that bitch. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's just, it's all these fucking snaps to judgment. And it's kind of like, but you tell more of the story, and then you're like, well, she thought she was going to live to be only 24, but she made it to 39. At least with this, she beat the odds too. And then what did you say? You're like, fuck, good for her.
Yeah. But who knows how much pain that was? I mean, I don't know. I just, you look at somebody's life and you look at the struggles that they endure, and I mean, I don't think Bob The impression that I got of Bob Flanagan is he wouldn't want anybody looking at his life as inspirational. He would want people looking at the art and asking what the art is supposed to represent and what it's supposed to mean, and the struggle and the fight. But I don't think he seemed like the kind of guy that was very realistic and very honest about the struggle that he was going through. But it was really about his coping mechanism and his survival of it. And that's why I watch it with the sense of both appreciation, awe, and overwhelming respect for this man who, and it's crazy because if this were just a guy that was doing this shit to his body on stage, I might think to myself, what the fuck? This fucking freak.
That's what I'm telling you. Like,
Yeah.
you would have come to the conclusions of, like, with the last episode,
Yeah.
where it was just kind of like the dude swagging his ass with a branch as if it's his tail, and you're just kind of like, what the fuck happened to you in your life that made you this way?
Yeah, but also, they didn't give me context.
Yeah.
They didn't. Here, I have context. I see that, when I was a kid, I remember seeing the Mapplethorpe photographs and thinking to myself, what the fuck is this? And I remember a famous one where Mapplethorpe is bent over with a bullwhip up his ass. But there is something to, number one, the black and white photography, the way it's lit, the way it's devoid of any other bullshit, and it's just about the act that is overpowering. And if you're an artistic person, or if you're somebody that appreciates art, you can be confused by the art that you're looking at without being dismissive of it. Now, without knowing about Mapplethorpe's life, and at that time, I think when I saw the picture, he was already dead. He had already passed from AIDS at that point. I didn't know. All I know is that I'm looking at a guy bent over with a fucking bullwhip up his ass. There's something about it, though, that I don't, and to this day, and it's been 30 years since I saw that, 35 years since I saw that photograph. I still don't know exactly what it is, what it's about, what it's supposed to mean. But I know it's more than just the shock of seeing something like that. I don't know if I can unwrap it, though. I don't know if I can take that picture and really try to understand what that shit is about. That's the artist mentality. That's when an artist has something that is beyond just exploitation and gratuitousness. And we're going to be talking about that next month with a couple of pictures. But when there's a style and there's a power, something about the intention pushes its way through. And you might not understand it, and maybe you're not meant to understand it, but you can appreciate it for what it is. Now, that being said, I'm not ready to have a print of that framed and put up on the wall of my house. But I can appreciate... What's that?
I said you'll have it in your drawer.
No. But I can appreciate the artistic integrity that creates something like that.
Well, because think about it. It's like it's in your mind because he was able to transfer his vision so that it would have an impact on you. So you would recall that at a time that would be appropriate, where you could be like, "This relates to this."
Yeah, I don't know how, but it does.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like it's kind of like the George O'Keeffe paintings of flowers that Ben Shapiro. You know who's Ben Shapiro? That conservative asshole commentator, right? He's
cocksucker. Yeah.
He described them one time, and he's just kind of like that. He found them very disturbing, and people were just kind of like, interesting, because George O'Keeffe's paintings are flowers, but ostensibly, right? Like, but they're also representative of not flowers or flowers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Women's anatomy, or it's the way you fucking see. Have you heard of this documentary called? I think it's called Murder Ball. Did you see it?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's these
paraplegics.
Quadriplegic.
They're
they're
paraplegics.
I think they're higher functioning quadriplegics. I don't want to split hairs on it, but
no, because a quadriplegic, they can move their upper bodies, right? They wheel themselves.
Yeah, but I remember I thought the same thing. But
okay, well maybe I'm wrong on that.
Regardless, I think they're described as quadriplegics.
It's possible. It's possible. I could be wrong.
Yeah. Aside from that, they play they play rugby.
Yeah.
But they're in wheelchairs. And these motherfuckers are thugs.
Yeah.
They are not, they're not what you think of when you think of the stereotype of, we have to look at this person with pity. We have to look at this person with from a certain position ourselves. No, these motherfuckers are crazy. These motherfuckers are like wild. And you're going, and there's like all this sex in the documentary too. I don't know if you remember that.
It's been years since I've seen it. No, I don't recall it too well. I just remember it's fucked up.
They're just breaking all the, and you're just going like, this is fucking insane. But it's cool because it's like, when shit fucking challenges preconceived notions, when shit fucking like goes, oh yeah, here's a dick in your face with a nail. People will question what is the value of something like that, and someone could argue that it's kind of like addiction or like porn or something like that, where you keep going, you have to go further, because we were talking about this earlier before we were recording. We were talking about how, as film people, what we at this point want from the films that we watch, and what will no longer, do it for us, in quotes, right?
Yeah.
Because if you've seen Taxi Driver, you've seen you've seen into someone's soul to a degree. And once you've done that, you want to fucking if you've had all these like Michelin fucking star meals, yes, every once in a while you're gonna want like junk food still too. But the thing is, like, now, a different level of taste, a different level of like experience, presentation, like, you're gonna look at things differently now. You're somewhere else now. And it's the same thing with art. It's the same thing with experience.
Yeah.
And this completely, is it like, oh, unless you have a dick, a hammer, and a nail, I don't want to watch it because it's not enough for me? I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that, like, I want to see films that challenge me. I want to see films that make me uncomfortable. I want to see films that make me pause it, even if whether it's actually for like, oh shit, or if it's just for like, wait a minute, like, let me digest what was just said, or let me. Did you see the way that emotion just crossed that person's face, and the mix of tears and laughter, whatever the fuck it is, right? Where you just go like, God damn. And as fucked up and as whatever fill in the blank as this documentary is, it is that. It may be dressed in whips and chains, but it's tender, and it's funny, and it's horrifying, and it's sexual, and it's all of the genres. It's all of it. And Bob Flanagan is, I think, a heroic figure. Bob Flanagan is a heroic figure. Bob Flanagan was, but still is at the same time. Bob Flanagan is a person who you go, yeah, that's a freak, and he would wave that freak flag proudly, as he should. Is he like, oh, everybody, let's get our hammers and like be like him? No, but it's like, well, what's our version of taking control or taking back control from our condition, whether that be, it doesn't have to be extreme, you know what I mean? Like, it's just fucking, what's your fuck you? You know what I mean? And you describe, in relation to the documentary fetishes, you describe wanting to know like more of this kind of sense of why, like, not like justify, or not necessarily like, hey,
there is no
justify
justifying.
Me,
it's
but just
no.
Share with me like what's your journey on this. And Bob Flanagan has a poem that's called Why. And it is it reveals, but it also doesn't reveal. Some of it, I think, is even to himself was shrouded and mixed in like cultural references and childhood shit and fucking just because, you know. So on my end, I'll leave us with this poem from Bob Flanagan explaining why. And before I do that, this episode is for our member, Mr. Burrows. Buymeacoffee.com/WatchRickRamoas. You can hit us there. We're on Spotify, we're on iTunes. Why? Why is Bob Flanagan like this? Why? Because it feels good. Because it gives me an erection. Because it makes me calm. Because I'm sick. Because there was so much sickness. Because I say fuck the sickness. Because I like the attention. Because I was alone a lot. Because I was different. Because kids beat me up on the way to school. Because I was humiliated by nuns. Because of Christ and the crucifixion. Because of Porky Pig in bondage, force-fed by some sinister creep in a black cape. Because of stories about children hung by their wrists, burned on the stove, scalded in tubs. Because of mutiny on the Bounty. Because of cowboys and Indians. Because of Houdini. Because of my cousin Cliff. Because of the forts we built and the things we did inside them. Because of what's inside me. Because of my genes. Because of my parents. Because of doctors and nurses. Because they tied me to the crib so I wouldn't hurt myself. Because I had time to think. Because I had time to hold my penis. Because I had awful stomach aches and holding my penis made it feel better. Because I felt like I was going to die. Because it makes me feel invincible. Because it makes me feel triumphant. Because I'm a Catholic. Because I still love Lent. Because I still love my penis. And in spite of all of it, I have no guilt. Because my parents said, be what you want to be, and this is what I want to be. because I'm nothing but a big baby, and I want to stay that way, and I want a mommy forever, even a mean one, especially a mean one, because of all the fairy tale witches, and the wicked stepmother, and the stepsisters, and how sexy Cinderella was, smudged with soot, doomed to live a life of servitude, because of Hansel, locked in the witch's cage until he was fat enough to eat, because of Oh, and how desperately I wanted to be her, because of my dreams, because of the games we played, because I've got an active imagination, because my mother bought me Tinker toys, because hardware stores gave me hard-ons, because of hammers, nails, clothespins, wood, padlocks, pulleys, eyeballs, thumbtacks, staple guns, sewing needles, wooden spoons, fishing tackle, chains, metal pliers, metal rulers, rubber tubing, spatulas, rope, twine, C-clamps, S-hooks, razor blades, scissors, tweezers, knives, push pins, 2x4s, ping pong paddles, alligator clips, duct tape, broomsticks, barbecue skewers, bungee cords, sawhorses, soldering irons, because of tool sheds, because of garages, because of basements, because of dungeons, because of the pit and the pendulum, because of the Tower of London, because of the Inquisition, because of the rack, because of the cross, because of the Addams Family playroom, because of Morticia Addams with her black dress and its octopus legs, because of motherhood, because of Amazon, because of the goddess, because of the moon, because it's in my nature, because it's against nature, because it's nasty, because it's fun, because it flies in the face of all that's normal, whatever that is, because I'm not normal, because I used to think that I was part of some vast experiment, and that there was this implant in my penis, and that made me do these things, and allowed them, whoever they were, to monitor my activity. Why? We don't fucking know why. Did Bob Flanagan know why? Who knows? But we know what we got out of the film. We know what he got out of life. And with that, we have a hero. Till next time, goodbye.